By the way, is the temperature in the room okay for everybody? Is it a little bit warm? Or we okay? Okay. Let's hear our morning scriptures.
Today is July 1st. We're reading Proverbs. The Proverbs of Solomon, the son of David, king of Israel. To know wisdom, instruction, receive the words of understanding, receive the instruction of wisdom, justice, judgment, and equity. To give prudence to the simple, to the young man knowledge and discernment. A wise man will hear and increase learning, and a man of understanding will obtain wise counsel. To understand a proverb and an enigma, words of the wise, the riddle. The fear of the Lord is the beginning of knowledge, but fools despise wisdom and instruction. My son, hear the instructions of your father. Do not forsake the law of your mother, for they will be a graceful ornament to your head, on your head, and chains about your neck. My son, if sinners entice you, do not consent. If they say, come with us, let us lie in wait to shed blood. Let us lurk secretly for the innocent without cause. Let us swallow them alive like stool and wool, like those who go down in the pit. We shall find all kinds of precious possessions. We shall fill our houses with spoil. Cast in our lot among us. Let us have one first. My son, do not walk in the way with them. Keep your foot from their path. Their feet run to evil. They make haste to shed blood. Surely in vain the net is spread in the sight of any bird. They lie in wait for their own blood. They lurk secretly for their own lives. So are the ways of everyone who is greatly for gain. It takes away the life of his owner. Wisdom calls out loud outside. She raises her voice in the open square. She cries out in the chief concourses. At the beginning of the gate in the city, she speaks her word. How long, you simple ones, will you love simplicity? For scorners delight in their scorning, and fools hate knowledge. Turn at my rebuke. Surely I will pour out my spirit on you. I will make my words known to you, because I have called and you refused. I have stretched out my hand and no one regarded. Because you disdain all my counsel and will have none of my rebuke, I will laugh at your calamity. I will mock when your terror comes like a storm and your resurrections come.
Well, that's what I.
When they stretch
Right there.
on you. When they call upon me,
And what's the other one you have?
it will meet diligently.
Them?
And when I find, because they hated knowledge and did not choose the fair see, would have none of my counsel, despise my every rebuke. Therefore, they shall eat the fruit of their own way and be filled to the full with their own fancies. For the turning away of the simple will slay them, and the complexity of fools will destroy them. But whoever listens to me will dwell safely and will be secure. Fear of evil includes today's proper. Proverbs 1. Back to verse 10. If sinners entice you, do not consent. I mean, it reminds me of being in front of the court, because the court is an evil synagogue of Satan, and I don't want to consent to them.
I'm going to ask Alan Rodriguez to give us an update of what's going on with the private data. You want to come here and
I'm on.
Hey everyone.
Hey, Al, we'll be through here in a second for you.
Property rights. I'm working with the Republic of Texas And I'm gonna be coming here and giving you guys an update every couple weeks, as our work progresses. And just in the last 2 weeks, we now have a blueprint for how to create a digital name. I thought that we'd sell our contracts for businesses to name it. Turns out the perfect customer is people who want to build digital name. They grant us little property rights, the tools to enforce them. And
No caller.
so in the last couple of weeks,
What? I can hear you.
you've met
Yes.
with the indigenous leaders.
I am now. I just had to put on my earphones so I can hear everybody.
Oh, okay. Whatever that was. So we met with the Canadians, and we're locking them into our working groups for creating digital names. It's like there's digital defense, digital governance, legal defense, and legal governance. And 4 working groups. And
All right, thanks.
now. I also met with some who here remembers Governor Clements. Remember him, right? His heirs have a building downtown. I've been meeting with them over the last 3 years. And as of last week, because of the investments that are coming in for digital rule of law tokens that we're using to fund this whole, they asked me for every document I had on the financial statement. They're scouring it now, and they understand that they sit on the sidelines. That we're going to go about doing what we do, whether they're on board or not. So, a couple things I wanted to pass along. We're making progress with the Republic of Texas, or the Digital Republic of Texas, and we have the Canadians now looped in, and we have the billionaires downtown. I'll be handing out some flyers. You guys get my contact information. You want to learn more.
Okay. I'm going to have Jason announce our next speakers that are coming up. You ready, Jason? And don't get too excited.
Oh my gosh, we have some very special speakers today, guys. If you like stuff that's underwater, Randy, I'll go to your name, your man. And if you want to know something about sovereign citizenry, wait, we know that's an oxymoron, so that doesn't exist. How can you be a sovereign citizen? But everybody give it up for KL's in the house also. All right.
KL, can you hear me okay?
I can hear you, but the speaker seems to be cutting out every couple seconds.
Okay, we're gonna turn the other mic off, and hopefully you can hear us okay.
You're sounding perfect right now.
Hey, Aaron,
Can you hear him okay with him talking also on a different mic?
you hear me?
I can hear you.
Okay, good.
Okay, I'm Randy Aldo, and so a little bit about I grew up in South Texas on South Highway, and my dad was famous for finding priest-makers jockeys off the coast in 1967. Started fighting the state when they decided to confiscate the treasure, and that's what probably began me down the road of being a constable back when I was a child. So years I've grown, learned. And most recently, really excelled by this man right here, AL. He has opened the door and made things clearer on what's been happening to us. He's got paperwork and everything backed up. We're going to talk about that some here. So what I'm going to do is a little intro, and then we'll go into documents and interact, explain them, stand on There's recommends that you get when you get into this program. And we just got these yesterday. And I read the first one, which is be the one to experience your rest. You know, okay, be the one to okay, so this thing, you know, if you didn't know what we know already, this would be confusing. Wouldn't understand a lot of what's said in here. But once you understand the basics, this thing kind of makes it really clear. It's like having a camera on an accidentally. Okay, so basically, it's like taking a camera and trying to focus on your subject, and you can get it to the point of where you can see what the subject is, but not quite sharp enough yet. Then you go and go through Kale's program and you read through his documents several times, and then you come back to reading this. It's like, now it's sharp and clear. And so I think he's got the best program out there. And Jason was joking about the sovereign citizen. Yeah, we're not sovereign citizens. We are the sovereign. We are the superiors. We're the creators. We are the bank that the government owes. And when they took away our money in 1933, they became the trustees of all of our debts. So anyway, I'll do a little trick here, and my wife doesn't be happy about it, but I'm going to have her read the first couple of pages that we read on the way over. She sounds better on the microphone. Being the teacher, it's okay. The first part is contract made by law. No state shall pass any law for comparing the. No state shall pass any law comparing the obligations of the client. As part of the Constitution, contracts made the law. Only ways to act government can be binding on us if we contract with the government through that act. Okay, so this goes on and on about that. I'm not going to suffer through that. Basically, everything is contract now, which KL has explained to us before, and he will go into some detail again today about it. But his thing is that everything is based on trust law. That is the superior. God's law, which goes into trust law, that goes into common law, that goes into statutory and all that other stuff. So his program gets us out of their law. Forget about the sovereign stuff. It gets us out of their law and instructs the government what law we are operating in. We are superior to all government because we created the government, and they are indebted to us. Like I said, we are their bank, and they have to answer to us. But they have, as we all know, developed this self-righteous arrogance that they project on us as if they are our authority, but they are not. So it's our job to stand up and correct them, correct our status on what they want us to be projected as, presumed as, and by doing that, we put them back in their place. And by doing it by trust law, like KL has said, they have to abide by the trust law. And it's our mistake to cite their law in their courts because they're just administrative. They are not the authority over us. They are just administering our estates, our minor estate until we declare that they're not the administrators anymore. We fired you, and now we are in charge of it. Our all caps name, we're going to release them as our trustee, not as a trustee, make them a trustee, but we're going to release them as our guardians, and we are going to take possession of the all caps name by going through his process, which includes doing a DBA in that all caps name after we have notified the government of their lack of authority and basically that they're fired. But we're at the same time going to appoint them as the trustees, so they are responsible for our estates. We're the beneficiaries and we're the master. We're the grantors and the beneficiary. So they have to adhere to what we tell them to do under trust law. But if you go into their jurisdiction and their statutory law, code laws, regulations, all that, then you are allowing them to be your authority. So by trust law, we are establishing, no, we are not operating under you, under your laws. We are operating above you, and we are telling you what to do for us. How's that, Dale? Is that kind of a good summary?
Well, pretty good. The whole thing is about they don't have a claim on you, the man. That would be slavery, so they would be in jail. So what they do is they make a claim on your name, your all caps name. They created it, it's in their jurisdiction. So what you have to understand is you have to get control of that name, which means you have to claim that name as your property and convey it from their public trust, from their public jurisdiction into the private jurisdiction where the trust law is. So what we're doing is taking the name from out of the public, putting it into the private, and once you put it in the private under trust law and appoint them as trustees, then they have to come into your jurisdiction to resolve any disputes with the all caps name. Okay? So it's really more about the name than the man or woman. It's understanding that how they control you is through the name, the claim on the name. So you have to take the control back of that name. Okay?
And so he's got all the packages, put together in sequence. So when you go through his program, you'll make a donation, for his time. And he sends you the first package, which is your declaration of status, which I'll be happy to show you guys. Don't want it on camera necessarily because it has private info in it, but it basically has all the stuff in there that you are correct. And once you file that into the public record, as well as your UCC, non-UCC, and you're basically filing that in Iowa, because that's where Dale says the headquarters of the UCC is. And so you file your UCC where you're claiming that your man owns your all caps name. And you put a $100 million lien against your all caps name entity that you've taken possession of ownership. And anybody that comes against you will have to pay you, the man, off because you are the creditor already where you credited your all caps name with the $100 million. So if somebody sues you for running over the cap, well, okay, that's great. Go pay sue the all caps name. I'm the agent for him. I'll represent that all caps name. It's not him, it's it. So you do that, you get a judgment. Well, then you got to pay me, the amount of that judgment because I'm the creditor. I got a lien ahead. So, have I got that right, Dale?
Well, you have to make the claim in the public, which means inside of their jurisdiction so they can see it. Well, that makes sense. If you can't tell them, they won't know. See, they base everything under presumption of law. I'm sure you heard of that. It's also called operation of law. They presume because they made a claim on your estate when you're a baby, you're still a child and ward of the state until you come forward as a competent adult, age of majority, and you make a claim that is superior to their claim. They will step down if you can prove your claim is superior to theirs. Okay?
His paperwork does all that. So, well, when you get his paperwork, you'll declare your private trust first. first thing you do. Nobody gets to see that but you, except for the number. So you're going to have a number that he will provide to you. And that is the establishment of your trust. Then you just have a declaration of trust in your packet for the DOS. And by doing that, you are making a public record of it, filing it in Montana, in Bighorn, Montana. And they've been doing lots of these, and they're pretty quick. My wife just got her packet back in a week, and so now we're about to be on the second stage for her. I've already gone through the second. But when you get to that point, after you file that, you receive it back with your stamped copy and the original, then they have verified it is public. At the same time, you're going to be filing the UCC action.
All right, can I interject? It's the same thing the founding fathers did. When they made a claim that they wanted to be independent, they made a declaration of independence, and then they put it at the post office for 30 days. It's called due process. Okay, then it was recognized by England. We are in the same boat. We have to do the same thing. We have to make a declaration. It's actually 4 pages, 19 things. You put in supporting documents, affidavits, exhibits, but you have to put it in there. Instead of putting it at the post office for 30 days, you put it in a county recorder's office. So it's the exact same process our founding fathers did. And it worked then, 250 years ago, and it actually still works today the same way. Okay?
Okay, so when you've done that, I'll crack open my file. This is what KL suggests you do is get a binder. This is the oversized binder. It's not the 9.5 by 11, 14, I guess. And so when he sends you your first pack, you will have a packet like this that you will keep that. And it will come with a green card. Everybody knows the green card, right? Return receipt. You get that, and that'll have information on it that is pertinent to this case. So it'll have your name. Saw my name. The clerk actually at the post office saw it was supposed to be returned to the sender, but it has my name as the recipient and the sender. So she thought it was a mistake, but she started writing it out. So, I need to, correct. And I didn't know at the time that it was actually supposed to be delivered to me, but it needs to be delivered back through the postal service to your PO box or whatever it is. So you will end up receiving it after you have received it. But in this case, the post office did stamp it as received and delivered, so they can't be. Oh yeah, that was just a little mistake I made. Didn't know. So then we have other things that are in the packet. It is other things to our benefit, which is the private registration indemnity bond, non-negotiable bond number, and it has the number on there. And this was done by Anna Marie Ritzinger. Am I saying that right, Kellen? Dale?
Yes.
Ritzinger. So anyway,
Right.
that bond basically, understanding, is supposed to cover us all, unlimited, because we're under the full faith and credit of the United States, because in 1933, as we all hear, they take away our gold and silver, and that was the only lawful money. So the only other thing is financial instruments. So financial instruments would be promissory notes, trust, deeds of trust, but deeds of conveyance and acceptance, blah, blah, grants. So when you create your private trust for this deal, you then will transfer all of your assets into the private trust. And you're going to make certain declarations in his documents that support it. So some of the documents, you'll have a stamp on some things if it's a conveyance, and you'll have a seal. There's a stamp, U.S. postal stamp for $1. So that'll be on a few of the documents. Then you'll have these gold seals with the embosser that, which you got to buy. And it basically says this for the trust. It's an asset of the trust. So once you get those things done, you will, in your second packet, you will be putting the seals on the tail, puts the seals, the stamps on the first. And then on the second packet, you do those things yourself. He still provides the document, but then you put your seals and stamps wherever it needs to go. And then you mail those out to 6 entities. I'll let Kale tell you those in.
Can I make one interjection again? Let me say something.
Correct me on anything I got wrong.
No, I just want to get it straight that you understand why, you have to understand why we have to do this. I know everyone would like to think they're in the Republic, but they're not. They're in a military occupied territory. March 9th, 1933, there was a soft martial law. So what you've got is two jurisdictions running concurrently, side by side, just like the Matrix movie. Okay? And that's why you can't get your constitutional rights. You can't go in and say, I want common law, or the Constitution applies. They're going to tell you you're in this other jurisdiction that doesn't apply. Okay? 1973 Congressional Report by Frank Church. I'm going to quote it. The United States has been in a state of declared national emergency since March 9, 1933. A majority of the people have lived their entire lives under emergency rule. When a citizen is governed by military power, he is not governed by the Soldiers' Code of military law, but he is said to be governed by martial law, and the law is entirely different. Now, can I see a show of hands? Anybody in the ever been in the military? Wow, not that many. All right. So the people that are there, would you tell the other people there that it's a different law form when you're on active duty? You're under the Uniform Code of Military Justice. It is not per se the constitutional rights, is it? This guy here in the white hat. He raised his hand, okay? The guy in the white hat in the corner. Tell him. Am I telling you the truth? Okay. So you can contract into a different jurisdiction. Even though you're standing here on the land, you can have, by contract, you put yourself in a different jurisdiction, or I should say putting your name in a different jurisdiction. So as much as we all like to think we're in the Republic, you're not. You're operating in commerce. Commerce is Article 2, territorial jurisdiction. You might as well be in D.C. You might as well be in Mexico or in the service. In the service, under UCMJ, you are guilty till proven innocent. And that's exactly what happens in the courts today. You're guilty until you can prove yourself innocent. You are not innocent till proven guilty. You do not have a right to a jury trial. Okay? None of that applies. In case any of you have ever gone to court and then you shake your head with what the hell just happened, that's what's going on. Okay? It's an Article 1 court being run by Article 2, and there really is an Article 3 jurisdiction there unless you know how to access it. Okay? They're not giving you the Article 3 judiciary, Article 3 rights. Okay? It's all commander-in-chief military. He's running the show. That's why all of these military stuff, just like Trump did, he doesn't need to ask permission. They didn't ask permission on the Korean War. They didn't have to, the president didn't have to, Johnson went into Vietnam. Reagan went into, where was it, in South America? The Gulf Wars with the Bushes, Afghanistan, none of that was under congressional approval like the Constitution says. So that's because he's under all military executive to power. Okay? So you have to understand you're in somebody else's sandbox. You're in their territory. So you have to understand how to navigate when you're inside of that jurisdiction. Because you can scream your constitutional rights all day long. They don't really exist. They're in abeyance. They're suspended unless you know how to get to them. And trust law is really the answer to understanding how to navigate inside of their system. smoothly, and so that they will recognize your proper status, and so they will leave you alone. And of course, the exception is as long as you don't harm someone or their property. Because again, if you run over somebody with your car or run into a car with your car, they can pull you out of the republic right into their democracy, into their Article 2 jurisdiction. Okay, which makes perfect sense. Now, again, if in case you don't believe me, look at what happens when Mexican nationals come over here and they either rape or kill somebody. Now, normally, if they're caught speeding, they have really no jurisdiction on them because they're not in the system. But when they commit a major crime against someone, a person or property, then guess what? They usually end up going to jail for a long time in our system. Even though they're not in our system, even though they're not citizens, they have the right to pull them out of where they're at into our jurisdiction if you harm personal property. Okay? And let me just reinforce one other thing. The 1906 Hale versus Henkel case, which is the most quoted case in the history of our country. It's been quoted at least 1,800 times. And I'm going to give you a quote. The right of the individuals, which are us, the people, are restricted only to the extent that they have been voluntarily surrendered by the citizenship to the agencies of government, which means if you give consent, if you contract, you can contract yourself into a different jurisdiction, but it's all voluntary. Okay. So, okay, that's the bad news is it's fraud and it's bad, it's deceitful, but the good news is because it's fraud, you can unvolunteer yourself out of those contracts. Okay. I give it back to Randy.
So, my okay, so here's one of the documents, and I'll just kind of flash it for this camera. Okay, so this is one of the documents that'll have a seal on it with your thumbprint and your name in red ink, and there's several different ways to sign it, which Dale teaches you all about that. I'm still trying to wrap my head around when to apply, how to sign certain work. It's a little fun first. Okay, so then we have the special and private trust indenture governing special use of the private trust name, your name. And so there's several pages to each of these, several seals, depending on what page it is, and thumbprints are when you sign it with the stamp and your conveying. So here's one with the stamp. So seal, stamp, and thumbprint, red ink with your signature. In this case, it's my last name or my first name. So KL puts it in the documents in a typed version where however you're supposed to sign, there's the equivalent. He puts it in the way that you're supposed to sign. So yes, last name, comma, first name. And depending on the document, it would have different things, such as whatever the document first. So your agents, your beneficiaries, both, all the time. So anyway, he has it all laid out for you, and it makes it pretty easy to go through it. My first time of reading the first pack, as I'm reading, I'm just in awe that, okay, this is making sense, but this is what it does, and it's powerful. Before reading that, and even this book, last night that I started on, he suggests. This is the one I talked about earlier. Be the one to execute your. Yep. There's another one here that he recommends, which is asset. I'll tell you guys that later. Anyway, in reading those two,
Randy. Yeah, Randy, can I say one other thing? Sorry.
absolutely.
The seals of the trust. Okay, that's what gives it authority. When you get your birth certificate and they put their seal, their embossed seal on it, that's what gives that authority. That's what they recognize. They recognize trust authority. So in all our documents, we're going to put the seal of a trust on. So it isn't that the name Randy Algo has the authority. It's Randy Algo, the beneficiary, that he's representing a trust. That's what gives them the authority that they will recognize. Because even in their system, they recognize trust law. Okay? So if you come forward as a representative or an officer of a trust, all of a sudden it has a lot more meaning to them. It's like getting something notarized, like a government witness. They will accept the document because they accept trust law. Okay? All right, Randy.
So, going from there, he has instructions on how to fill them out, what to file first, what to address with it. Like, you're going to send this to Bighorn County, get it registered. Then once you get that back, it will have your book and file and page numbers for where they filed every single page. So you'll get the original back with your birth certificate, and once you have that back, that is filed into the public record. And so then he will send you your second. The second packet is going to be 6 and you're going to notify 5 different governmental entities, and then the royal, not a what do they call the AL, this something crime. Can you hear me? No.
No, I just barely.
Okay. I was telling him about the shrine. What is the shrine that not the royal shrine? One in DC that we send the notices to. You got the code.
Yeah, we send notice. In other words, once. Okay, so it's imperative we use some of their documents so they recognize it. That's the whole point. That's the common sense, is that when it's on their form with a seal on it, they will recognize it as evidence. Okay, so again, if you want to prove you're a living man and you want to be on the Republic jurisdiction, you have to provide evidence to them. Okay, and that's what a lot of our paperwork is providing that evidence that they will recognize and then put into their computer database system. So when a driver's license is, run or anything else, that it comes up the proper status level. Okay, that's the reason for all of this. Is you can't just say, hey, I'm a real man and I'm not liable to pay taxes. You need to provide evidence that the IRS will recognize that you're not a U.S. citizen, which is the double authenticated certificate of live birth and the other paperwork. So it's imperative that you send them stuff to make sure that they can change their computer database so you can be recognized as different from everybody else. Okay?
Okay, so Kale, what I was referring to is the entities we're going to send notices to. After we get our Montana packet back, we're going to make copies of that packet, and we're going to send it to these 6 entities. 5 of them government, 1 of them is the shrine.
Correct. Well, you want, again, the notice is, if you really, I don't know if you could show them the 3rd page of the NOI itself, it's a notice of demand to correct the computer database. And it puts almost every government agency on there, that you want to have your proper citizenship corrected into their database in case you are ever stopped by the government. Okay, and the notices, again, are IRS, President, Secretary of State, Secretary of Treasury, IRS, your local, your state Attorney General. Why would we send this stuff to your state Attorney General where you live? Let's say even you were born in California but live in Texas. Well, any indictment that might ever come from the government has to go through your state Attorney General's office. They can't come after you until they go through that office first. So we notify the Attorney General in your state that you reside in of your proper status, so that way the Attorney General can say, hey, wait a second, we can't do that because of his status. Okay? So there are reasons why we send notice We're trying to prophylactically get ahead of the game so that if anything ever comes up, we have our paperwork inside of their system so they would leave us alone. Okay?
Okay, so I just found the instruction sheet, which says, you're going to send one to the Treasury, one to the POTUS, one to the U.S. Secretary of State, the IRS Commissioner, the Attorney General of your state, and the Director of National Crime. That's what I was trying to think of.
Right. The rector of the National Shrine is the Pope's representative in this country. He's actually the trustee to the United States Incorporated Federal Government. So he basically is the Pope's right arm, and the Pope still has a claim on all this land and all this property that's here in this commercial world. So he has to be notified.
And can you explain to them the way that the Act of 1933, the amendment to the 1917 took place, and who took possession over it, which is basically rooted in the Act of 1871?
Well, the whole problem, I mean, there were many things that happened along the way, like the 14th, but the 14th, everyone thinks that's the problem, and it's not. All the 14th did was create another citizen, a national citizenship out of your state citizenship. So if you read section 1 of the 14th, and that the big case in front of the Supreme Court was about this issue, that you have two citizenships. You have one of the state where you reside, and you have a national citizenship called the citizenship of the United States. Now, what you don't understand is that you have the right to choose which citizenship you want to declare. Which one do you want to be? Okay? If you go around saying you're a U.S. citizen or a citizen of the U.S., that puts you into that statutory territorial jurisdiction. If you say you're a Union State jurisdiction, it keeps you in the Republic. Okay? So it's a big deal. Now, 1933 came along in the $20 bill. You know, every bank had to give you an ounce of gold. Well, we ran out of gold because, you know, in 1913, the Federal Reserve came along and they started creating the money, right? Controlling the money. And if you read the act, they had to be paid in gold certificates. They didn't want to be paid in Federal Reserve notes. So it only took 20 years to deplete the United States amount of gold where we didn't have enough to go around. So that's why they declared the national emergency, okay? Closed the banks for 4 days, said we don't really have the money, so now we're going to have to switch the monetary system. We're going to give you the Federal Reserve notes now would just be debt notes, IOUs. They're not going to be real money. It's just currency. There's a difference in the definition of currency versus real species of money, like gold and silver. Okay, and if it's not backed by gold anymore, then it might as well be monopoly money. Okay, it's just giving them something that says it's an IOU that somebody else is going to pay them someday. Now, the reason this caused chaos in our country and then all over the world is without lawful species of money, a legal title to an asset cannot be conveyed from one party to another. So immediately upon declaring the emergency, they placed all publicly registered property into a trust, like land, like cars. Everything that legal title went into a government trust. It's actually held at the Treasury Department. And you, the people, were given equitable title to all the assets, which means you got use and possession of your car, you get use and possession of your land, but you're not the legal owner. And how can I prove this? Well, that's simple. If you don't pay property taxes, you can have your house paid off, but if you don't pay property taxes, the government can come take your whole house and give you nothing, can't they? How do they do that? Because they have a legal title to the house and the land. Okay? Same thing with your car. If you don't put license plates, you don't get it registered, don't have insurance, they can take and haul your car away. How do they do that? They have the legal right because they're holding the legal title to the car. Okay? So again, you got to understand you're in their sandbox. You're in their jurisdiction. You're operating in commercial jurisdiction. There's not the Republic. Okay, all your bank accounts are in their jurisdiction, all your insurance accounts, your credit cards, the money, everything is in their jurisdiction. So you got to learn how to navigate their jurisdiction. So 1933 is a really big deal. And again, if you look at just the congressional record, they'll tell you that we're still under that emergency rule today. Okay, and only if you read Proclamation 2040, which was on March 9th, it says is in full force and effect until a president rescinds it. Okay, so that's what has to happen unless we individually do this paperwork. You can, the military jurisdiction is not going anywhere. Okay, now if we could get that Proclamation 24 rescinded, we could go back to the Republic. You could hold legal title to everything again. You wouldn't have to pay property taxes. You see the difference. Huge difference in what's going on prior to 33 and post 33. I mean, everything changed. And then once the world currencies were pegged off of the dollar, now everyone is under the same system as we are, except for there's only two countries left that are not under the Federal Reserve System, and that's Iran and North Korea. All right.
And so can you explain the colonial title to our properties? Because when this country was created, when the colonies were created, some of my ancestors were the very first owners that had ships that actually brought people here. And they were the first, group of first owners of the title to the property. Everything was loyal title to them. And the government has taken possession of that. They gave themselves the authority to deprive us of that allodial title, and especially the Act of 1933, as Dale's talked about. So there is a way to get back allodial title, but here's the thing. There's two types of allodial title, just like two types of common law. The government has created its own version of that, so a mirror image, just like they did the de jure and from the de jure to the de facto constitution in the 18th century. So by converting the laws, taking authority they didn't have, they converted everything from allodial title to property title that they have taken possession of, which Dale was talking about. So can you just,
and that's the other reason everything got codified. Yeah, I'm sorry. That's the reason everything got codified. All laws had to be switched to a different jurisdiction, so that's where statutes and codes come into play now. Statutes and codes are in that jurisdiction where the laws are back in the Republic. But you're not in the Republic. That's why you're held to the standard of the codes and statutes. You see? It's telling you that you're in a different jurisdiction. Okay, sorry.
So like you explained that, once we get out of their system or declare that we are out of their system and we are only under trust law, then we are only the court that we would go to for anything, whether plaintiff or defendant, is basically a chancery court of chancery, which is an exclusive equity court. And so that's the only one that we would grant authority over, is because they have to address trust law, which is what we stand under because we've made our public declaration. So the allodial title, though, what I was trying to get at is that they converted the rights that we had prior into the codified, like Dale just explained, but they created it in the mirror image. So therefore, their version of allodial title is not the same thing as the real allodial title. Just like their version of common law is not the real version of, private common law. So these documents, so what I started to say, Dale, was I've heard you say that you wouldn't recommend changing back into allodial title, but at other times you said you could. So could you expand on that?
Well, in all honesty, it's almost impossible to get a allodial title to your car or your home. You can, but it comes with responsibilities. The problem, let's just take the car. let's say if you really did have the MCO, well, that means you can't put plates on it because it belongs to you. It doesn't belong to them, but they're going to pull you over because they're going to say, they got those computer readers in the cars now. They're going to think it's in their jurisdiction. Okay. Now, if it is your car and not registered, even insurance companies have a difficult time wanting to insure it. So you would have to be totally liable for it because you do have the legal and equitable title to it. Okay, so if you ran into somebody, you're responsible. You're ultimately responsible. Now, let's take the land. If you actually had land title, okay, you would have to privately contract with the electric company, the gas company, the water company, the police, and the fire. If you want all of those services, those aren't free. Okay, you have to pay for them through a private contract. Now, you wouldn't be paying for the schools, or you wouldn't be paying for their retirement bonds and all that kind of crap in there. But my guess is normally, if you had a $4,000 property tax bill, you'd still probably have to pay $2,000. So what I want you to understand is, even if you have it, it's not free. Do you understand? If your house is hooked up to water, sewer, electric, gas, you got to pay them for that. What you understand? Unless you're self-sufficient, like in a cabin, if you got a well, then you wouldn't. But if you're hooked up to public services, if you want the fire department to come if you have a fire, if you want the ambulance to come, if you have an emergency, you would have to privately contract. And all of that you don't see because that's in your property taxes. Okay? So it's just, all I'm trying to tell you is it's not as great as you might think. It's possible that you can still get these things. It doesn't, in their system, though, I don't think it affords that big of a difference in terms of most of the time being worthwhile. Unless, let's say you're a property owner and you have 4 apartment buildings and your property taxes are $30,000, then it might be worthwhile. But it's really up to you. These are, your decisions that you have to make. And that's more or less, I would say at an advanced level, you really got to understand how to get that allodial trust title. Okay, and what involves in getting that title. Now, we get a allodial title. We get a perfected title to the name. That's what gets it out of their system. We want their name under our control. We still want to use our name inside of theirs, but we want control of it. And so there's a way that we absolutely go after the perfected allodial title of the name. Okay? I hope that helped.
Great. Okay, so I found my documents that I filed. This is part of the DOS. So we
Yes.
just easily get them. Here's the first page. You don't get right here. Okay, so at the top corner here is the decal that is placed on there by Bighorn County, Montana. It shows the book and the date, page, and all that stuff. For every single page, there is a page number in their files. So
right, now I want to say something, Randy, give me a second. Because that stamp is there, that now makes that admissible in any court of law in the country. That's why we do it. Okay? Because if you want them to accept your status and you want to provide that evidence into a court case, they will immediately do it if their stamp is on there. So you see how we got to use their system to get their signature on it so they will accept it. Okay?
And then one of the major documents in there, they're all bigger, but this is another point. We're going to file an affidavit for your name. And everybody knows that if they don't rebut that affidavit within so many days, sometimes 21, sometimes 30, then they waive any claim to rebut it later. It is accepted as law in any court and land. So along with that is the Declaration of Private Trust Arrangements. This document here declares your private trust. That's all you need to notify the government of is your private trust. In addition, we have this is the one I love. This is the rights and fees and fines schedule. So this is your fee schedule that you're going to post in the public record. Nobody's rebutted it. It goes along with the affidavit, and everything in here, Kale has set it at a $5 million per violation for each of these things listed, and any other rights that aren't listed, like the Ninth Amendment. These rights are absolutely guaranteed, but it also guarantees all others, not just the ones enumerated in the Bill of Rights. So that's kind of what this does. It basically says that any right you violate has a list of some sample rights, that it's a $5 million fine. Like if they take a photograph, that's a violation of your image or likeness. If they use your name in commerce, which all of them, since they are administrative courts and they're trying to money you, they're attorney, whether it's attorneys, they're attorney being taken from you. So by doing that, you're giving them public notice, whether they find it or not, it's in the public record. And you're saying, if you violate my rights, $5 million per violation. If you take one of my fingerprints, $5 million per fingerprint. If you take my gun and my ammo, $5 million per bullet. So you're setting the public notice, which they have not rebutted your affidavit in support. Okay, so that makes it admissible in any court of law. And if they violate it, then they've accepted the terms of your fee schedule. So then you have your birth certificate, which we've all heard lots about and spoken about in the committee. So what AL is putting together is telling you, first of all, when you first get started in his program, get at least three certified copies of your birth certificate. Okay, certified copy from the county, Carson County, Texas, wherever. And then you're going to go to the Secretary of State, and you're going to have it double authenticated. The county already authenticated the first one. So the next one is filing it with the Secretary of State as an apostille. So then that's the state authorizing the county's office. Once you get that back, then you're going to send it to the United States. It's going to be the Department of State. And they're going to send you this document attached with a little grommet. So you can okay. So you can spin this out of the way by, so that you can Xerox them or scan them into your computer, so you've got files on there, but they're all attached. Do not just attach them. Here's it up. But basically, this document has language on it that it is with the full faith and credit of the United States. So they are authenticating, as KL in that one book over there describes, that they are the creator of the all caps name. Okay, so they own it. That's how they can engage in commerce. But we basically fire them. We terminate that connection because they've done it in our likeness, and they basically did it with fraud. We didn't agree to it. We weren't of age where we could agree to their contract. We didn't agree to them to represent us. But when your mother signed on your birth certificate as the first of all, as the mother. In my case, and I've seen them done wrongly, it's on the entity. In my case, it was my mother got her maiden name, but then she also signs as the informant. Well, when I saw that, I'm like, informant to what? What's she informing? And she didn't know. She didn't know. I talked to her about it. I didn't inform them of that. But then after she signs that, she is informing the government that you are basically lost at sea. You are a ship, a vessel that has broken from its berth. Vessels are moored to the berth. They are moored to the doctor, and they are removed. You are removed and you're lost at sea. And basically, she's informing that, hey, there's a vessel floating around there somewhere that needs a guard, needs somebody to, attach a mooring to it and take care of it until it reaches its age of majority and can explain that it is no longer a underage. You have reached the majority. You are capable of handling your own estate. Well, I have a compounding issue here because the registrar that signed it is based on your all caps name is based on the date of the registrar signing it. Okay, that's the creation of your all caps name. Well, my wife's grandfather here was that registrar. He was the JP of the court where I was born, and he's the one that signed the document. Well, guess what? She can write an affidavit for me as his heir if I needed such a thing. Okay.
The birth certificates are evidence that your name was placed in a trust. And the fact that you have it in your hand is the evidence you're the beneficiary of that trust. Okay? If you want to claim you're one of we the people or the posterity, which is the beneficiary of the constitutional trust, that the birth certificate is the evidence of it. Okay? That's why we do that. So we can bring that into any court case again if we ever need it. We're looking again for evidence that they will recognize that you're the beneficiary of all of these things and not the trustee or surety who is the liable party. You just want to be the trust fund baby and you want to enjoy the benefits of everything that they provide. You just don't, you have a choice to be liable or not. It's up to you.
I wondered about this. Baby being born, go through the birth canal, right? Did you say so?
I'm sorry, I can't understand what she said.
I have a question that when a baby is born, it has to go through the birth canal, correct?
Well, yeah, I know all of this. It's not about that, but go ahead. I'm a medical doctor. I've delivered 125 babies. I know what it's like.
I never went
Okay.
to the birth canal. Mine were all cesarean. There's the difference.
Yeah, I don't think they're going to see it. It's still perfect.
And they're always cut out.
Okay.
The record of the birth is the proof, the evidence that a trust was created. You don't need to think of it as anything more than that. A trust was created.
Right. So then the next part of the packet is how you're going to notify the IRS that you are no longer a U.S. citizen tax. Because as we all know, that's only for federal employees and foreign corporations, not dubious in the thinking we were if we were the surety. So there's 3 documents in here that go to the IRS, and you're giving them that notice. After that, once a year, AO will also provide the document properly filled out, show you how to fill it out with 15103. And every year you just submit that, cover your butt that you are not that, you don't have to pay income tax again. And he'll tell you that he's done this for 18 years or so, and he was contacted by the IRS and the FBI. They came to his house, wanted to interview him, and I'll let him tell a story. But basically, he had a private chat with them, and they went away. Okay, Al, can you tell about that?
Well, let's just go back to the taxes. You, the man or woman, was never really liable for income taxes. You were your all caps entity is the liable entity. because they created it. There's a sole corporation, and under the Constitution, a corporation is liable for federal income tax. You were just deceived into being the surety, co-signer, co-guarantor, whatever word you want to use, but you volunteered to pay the debt of another, which was your straw man. So when you make money even today, if you work for a company, they're going to provide a W-2 to the IRS. Now, the employee is not you. Again, it's not the man, it's the name. Okay? So they're going to get a record of that name having income and wages. Okay? So we file for that all caps name. But under their rules and definitions of gross income or whatever even income is, that you're considered a non-resident alien and a private trust is a non-resident alien, so you are not liable for any income tax, nor is your all caps name anymore. And that's really the important thing. You've really, again, never been liable for income taxes. It's the name. It's the claim on the name again. I get back to the name. That's why the birth certificate, it's your name was put into trust. It's all revolves around your name. Okay? So if we file, because if you don't file, they probably will come after you. Okay? There's several cases, the Joe Bannister case, the Sherry P.O. Jackson case. Those were two IRS agents that stopped filing when they figured out that they weren't liable. Okay, but again, it's not about you. It's about the name. The all caps name is the employee, not you. So they were both found guilty. I think they both spent around 2.5 years in federal prison. And then you got Wesley Snipes, who was the big name, who got charged with 27 counts, 3 counts of failure to file for 3 years, and then 24 counts of fraud. Well, he was found innocent of the 24 counts of fraud, but he was found guilty of the failure to file. Okay, and had to serve, again, 2.5 years in federal prison. Okay, so that name, that all caps entity, does and should have to file. But again, it's not about you. Okay, okay, you gotta file for that thing. Okay, if you don't want to be hassled by the IRS, if you want them to treat you right, you just file a thing saying that thing has 0 gross income. But if you don't file, they're more than likely to come after you. Okay, so I'm sure you've all heard of a revocation of election. Well, revocation of election is just a notice that you're no longer going to volunteer to pay, which is great. But that's the first step. Okay, there's probably at least 3 more steps after that. If you don't file and you do nothing after that, more than likely, about 3 years later, they're going to start coming after you. Okay, and that's where I get a lot of people come to me, is because they stop filing, and then the IRS finally starts inquiring what's going on. How come you haven't filed? Once they send you the first letter, they have 7 years to come after you to do whatever they wanted after that. So I implore you not to not file, because you should be filing, but on behalf of the all caps entity. And again, we'll take that name, we'll put it into a private trust, which is outside their jurisdiction, so they can't tax it anymore. That's what this whole thing is about, is getting control of that all caps name, so you can still have a job, so you can still have a bank account, so you can still have a credit card, you can still have a car, you can still do all of these things. It's just that because you're controlling the name, you're not liable for all of this crap anymore. Okay?
Includes driver's license where you can sign it with your 3 initials.
Now, I'll get back to your story. Let me interrupt again. I'll be honest, when I first started this, I did stop filing also. But then the IRS sent me a letter and said, would you please fill out a 15103? So yes, I did talk to them, and they said, look, it's like this. We'll get the W-2 or the 1099 from the employer. The computer will flag it if there's no return. He said, look, we know what you're doing. We know your status. But if you don't fill this out, then it has to come to one of our desks. An investigator has to look into it, and we have to waste our time. So he said, would you just please fill out a 15103, and then when the computer sees that, it doesn't get flagged, and then we don't get involved, and we don't have to mess with it anymore. So this is straight out of their mouth, that this is what we should be doing. Okay?
So I think we kind of covered the basics of it, and Nelson wanted to ask questions, so we'll open it up to questions now.
My question is, there was that list of charges, the 5 million fee schedule. Is that actually legitimate? I've heard that for many years. Has anyone ever actually fined anyone and collected based on the fee schedule in your program or any other?
Yes, but you got to know how to do it. Okay, first of all, every police officer and everyone in the public who holds public office has an insurance policy. It's called a hazard bond, and the limit is up to $5 million. Now, let me just ask you, if you were in a parking lot, you parked your car, somebody hit your car, backed into it and took off, but somebody else wrote down their license plates and number, what would you do? You would send a bill or an estimate, right, to their insurance company once you found out. So it's the same principle. You have to make an invoice and send their people that insure them. So you got to find out who is their hazard bond carrier. Okay. Normally, you might have to do a FOIA, but normally you can go down and find out any risk assessment officer in a corporation. They'll know who's handling their insurance. Okay, so you have to make a claim against their insurance. Now, just like when you bang your car or whatever, they're going to say, well, how much is your claim? And if you say 5 million, they're going to say, well, yeah, but we only think there was $20,000 worth of damage. We'll give you an offer at 20,000. So it isn't that you get to automatically win the 5 million. You're going to have to negotiate the damages, okay, and come up with some reason why you want the amount you're claiming. Do you understand?
I came across something yesterday that explained that the all caps name applies to the placenta. And
That's
that,
correct.
to me, it makes it easier for me to exert that is not me.
Correct.
Have you heard that before?
It's your evil twin. Now, so here's the thing. So the baby comes out, right? Umbilical cord. First of all, when you're in the mother's womb, you're one thing. The baby's connected to the cord, connected to the placenta. Everything is one thing, right? Okay. So spiritually, you're one being. When you come out of the birth canal, the cord is cut. The baby goes one way. It is granted a name by the parents. So that name is put into a trust. Then you wait about 15 minutes, you rub the lady's belly, and hopefully the placenta and the afterbirth come out, right? Well, because it's pulsating, because it's beating like a heart, because it was pumping blood to the baby. If you read their statutes, it is born alive, but presumed die. So any tissue, all you gotta do is read the codes. Any tissue or substance that has like a beating of the heart or appears alive but presumed to die, okay, think of it as like you left a treasure chest of gold. You have abandoned the property, never made a claim on it. The state comes along and says, we'll make a claim on it because it was left. They didn't make a claim on it. And because it's got the baby's DNA in it and it's presumed to die, it's given the baby's name. They always wait like a week or two later, right? So now for sure it's presumed dead. And once you die, then your name becomes an all cap, so you become a corpse. Okay, but that name is when they create the straw man, they send their name they put it in trust, they send the vital records, creates the sole corporation. That's how the whole game begins. So yes, at birth, you got two entities, two different jurisdictions. The real man or woman, and that name is placed in trust, and then the all caps name is created out of the afterbirth. That's put in the different jurisdiction, okay, with another trust. So again, it's this parallel universe going on. We got a democracy and a republic going on at the same time, and you're trying to figure out how to go back and forth. In the movie The Matrix, they use the telephone, right, to move from the reality to the make-believe, the artificial, right? Well, your straw man is that transmitting utility. that you're using in your jurisdiction to move over into their, to do stuff in their jurisdiction. That's what this is. Does that help?
I think she understands that. I took possession of the microphone for a second because I wanted to add that Hale's documents address that. He has in there that you're declaring that you're not dead, you're not lost to sea. The placenta is just like hair and fingernails. It is has your DNA, but it is not you. So that clarifies all that also. So, if Steve wants to ask a question.
Right, and you're making a claim on point number 19. We make the claim of the declaration that placenta and afterbirth, ever since the point of conception, that's your property. Okay, so but again, they think it was abandoned by your parents. That's what allows them to come in and make a claim, because no one has come forward and put a public claim in that is superior to theirs. So again, that's their presumption color of law, that they presume things until you can come along and either rebut their presumption and or come with a higher superior claim to whatever property they have a claim on. Okay?
Okay. All my legal documents, my court filings, my bank account, my license, everything, I have the name of Steve. But on my birth certificate and social security card, the name is Stephen. So what kind of conundrum am I in with that?
Well, you bring
up by Steve everything. And
well,
all my legal documents say Steve, except
right. You bring up a very good point. They don't care what the name on the birth certificate is. They only care about what the name you're using. Okay? What name are you using doing business? That's all they care. Now, again, all you got to do is look at a female who gets married. Okay? Their name changes, right? Then they get divorced. Oh, then it goes back and changes again. Oh, they get remarried. Now it changes again. Okay? So the system doesn't, they know what original name you had, and then every name like lays on top of that. They only worry about what you're using, what's on top. If you wanted to use the name John Doe, you could get a DBA in the name of John Doe. Okay? So in their system, they just want to know what the name you're using to do commerce. Your birth name is almost irrelevant to them. They just want to know, and that's why they let you do that, Steve. They have your bank account that you could go to they'll let you use a different name that is not your true name. Okay? They don't care. All they want to know is the name that you're using. And when I keep saying the word using, that means you're the beneficiary of that name. That means it's not your name. You know, it really belongs to somebody else. You definitely want to use it, but they don't give a crap what your real name is. Okay?
I was concerned that they would want to catch me at multiple calls.
Yeah. They could care less. You've been impersonating your straw man every day for how many years? Since you were what, 14?
Got a question over here. Can you talk a little bit about how the Social Security card comes into play with respect to the trust created for your program?
Okay.
Given a
Your Social Security trust. All right. Your Social Security trust is part of your Cesta K trust, the estate trust that they created when when you were born. Okay. Now, in terms of my process, it does not affect Social Security whatsoever. It doesn't affect VA benefits. It doesn't affect unemployment benefits, because we use the all caps name to do commerce with. And those accounts all have that all caps name on it. So the good news is absolutely nothing gets affected by doing this. There are people out there, they'll tell you can't cash in the Social Security, whatever. I just wouldn't listen to them, because you can. You can still collect the benefits, the public benefits of the public trust. Okay? Because again, they're for your all caps name. All you need to learn how to do is accept them on behalf of that all caps name. Because again, it really wasn't created for you. Social Security was created for your straw man. But if you're the beneficiary of your straw man trust, you'll be glad to take it and use it for your benefit, wouldn't you? That's all you got to do. Just endorse it as the agent or beneficiary. I get a VA check, for the last 31 years, every month. I'm on Social Security. My wife's on Social Security. I get all of those public benefits, but I still live in the private. But my all caps trust is what all of that goes into. Okay. And that's why I'm still allowed to collect all of those benefits. Does that help?
With your private trust, my question is, if I was to trade.
Yeah, everything just goes to my private, instead of my straw man trust, everything goes to my private trust. It's the same name. Okay. It's made out to the same person.
With respect to private trust, we're trying to have to create. The question is, do you get an EIN number, an employee identification number from the federal government? Do you open a foreign trust in a foreign land, or can you go and open up a bank account here in the United States?
No. Why would you need a different EIN than your social? The Social Security is hooked to that all caps name forever. You can't get rid of it because it's not yours. It doesn't belong to you. It wasn't created by you. You do not need a separate EIN. You could have a separate EIN for a DBA all caps name. You can do that if you want. I'm telling you, you don't need to. Now, I'm also telling you that if you go to the bank with a different EIN for an LLC or a DBA with that name, they're still going to ask you for the social. Okay, they're not going to let you open the account without it. That's the Patriot Act. Okay, so it doesn't matter. It doesn't really help, but it doesn't hurt either. Okay, I'm just saying you don't need it. Okay, you can have it, but it goes back to the social because it's got to know what account that's coming from.
Well, I have a question for the spiritual one. Is there a way, because of being Revelation 13, buying and selling, but it doesn't say, is there a way to collapse the whole thing with your social security number? That's something that,
Okay, is there a way to collect the whole thing? Is that the question?
Wow.
Is that a yes?
Part of it. I want to go to the, buying and selling is going to be a part where you're actually creating a spiritual contract that I don't want to be a part of. Like, it doesn't say anything about trading, bartering, but I want to know how to collapse the whole thing. I don't want no part of the system.
Well, again, then go live in a cabin in the mountains because you cannot interact in commerce.
You're still contracted with them, right? So don't you have you want to put the into that contract, right?
Yeah, but even if you think you're contracted with them, they're putting it in the system as the all caps name. Okay, you're volunteering yourself back into the system. In fact, when you say you don't want to use it, but then if you have a bank account, you are using it. Okay, if you have a driver's license, you are using the system. Okay, so unless you want to live in a cabin in the mountain by yourself, okay, which is not reasonable to me for most people. I'm not saying if you want to do it, go ahead and do it. Okay, but let's get realistic here. How easy would that be for most people not to use the system? You can't. Everywhere you go, the system, it's commerce. Everything you do is commercial. The money is commercial.
Food at the supermarket, that's commercial exchange.
That's right. You're using the
So
system.
when you're talking about a barter system, but you're still going to interact no matter what with the system. So what his program is doing is making it simple for you to do that where you're not liable. So it's
Correct.
accomplishing what you want to do, but in front of the world.
It's allowing you to stay private, but do commerce.
Hey, Kale, I'm Alan Rodriguez, and I've been meeting with this group for a little while about a nonprofit I have where we're granting people their digital property rights to override terms of service agreement. And I'm curious if there's a way to snap the two things together so that your materials grant people their digital property rights. What might that mean downstream?
Okay, so again, property rights are private rights. Okay? Private rights. Are you a private person, a private citizen? If you provided evidence you're a private citizen, so you can hold private property. Do you see where I'm going? U.S. citizens are not private citizens. U.S. citizens are not allowed to hold private property.
Right, but you were talking about how you create a document with your rights on it. What if that was expanded to include digital property rights?
Well, it gets to the most basic of what is the first property right you should claim? Your name. Okay? Your unalienable rights are your property rights. The first one you should be claiming is the name, because your name is used in everything in commerce. Okay?
I heard you mention a document where you write down all of your rights if they're infringed.
Well, I'm not sure where you're going with that. What do you mean, write a document about your property rights?
Where you write the
Well, the fee schedule is that if someone violates your constitutionally secured rights or breaches your trust is your all caps name, okay? Which more than likely in the commercial world, they're going to breach your trust. Could a police officer or falsely arrest you and hit you? Well, then the constitutionally secured rights come into play, okay? But again, to even claim them, which we're doing publicly, we're telling them that we have those rights, okay, that we're entitled to those rights. Now, according to trust law, the only one that's entitled to those rights, those equitable, unalienable rights, are the beneficiaries, okay, not the trustee. If you do SP, secured party creditor, you're the trustee. If you're signing a surety, you're the trustee. You first have to claim you're the beneficiary of the Constitution, the beneficiary of your state constitution, the beneficiary of your birth certificates, the beneficiary of the trust they set up in 1933. That's what entitles you to those rights, those private property rights. Okay? You can't just say it. You better have evidence to prove to them that you are entitled to them. Does that help?
So I'm saying, is there a way to use your system to assert digital property rights?
Yeah.
Not unless you say it, right?
You're not born with them, okay? I know everybody wants to believe that, but as an adult in this system, again, in their jurisdiction, you have to come forward as an adult and claim them. They're not going to just automatically give them to you. Now, that's what the U.S. Supreme Court case with Trump is about. He's saying that the baby is just not given those rights, okay? Because it's a baby. And the parents are not U.S. citizens, okay? Or Union State citizens. So you can't just give rights to a baby. To me, the baby would have the rights if it waits till the age of majority, comes forward and then claims the right because they were born in California or wherever that baby was born. I can't remember where, but in their jurisdiction, again, this is you got to understand you're in a different jurisdiction. You're not in the Republic. It would be different if we're in the Republic. None of this would have to apply. But because we're under martial law, because we're in a military jurisdiction, you have to do these things according to trust law, because trust law is the only thing that they will abide by. Okay?
You're saying they follow your system. Follow your system.
Yes.
That paper you talked about where we write down our rights, fees. What
Right.
happens if we add digital property rights to that?
Right. It isn't the rights because you're a man. It's the rights because you're a beneficiary of the Constitution. That's why you're entitled to those rights. Do you see what I mean? That's trust law. That's why they will recognize it. If you use the word, you're the beneficiary of the trust. Okay?
So basically, that last line that I told you about in the fee schedule, that is all other rights. That covers everything. So your crypto rights it's your property. It's personal property.
Yes.
And you create a list of all your property. See, like one of KL's examples is you have guns. Okay, you put those in the private trust. The courts cannot see a private trust. Therefore, they cannot ever come after your guns. You don't own them.
Trying to get at is that there's a concerted effort to try and tear down the terms of service. I'm trying to figure out if the system, if people enter into it, do it the right way, that gives them leverage to go after these big tech companies and say your terms of service are enough. You owe us an enormous amount of money for violating our property. Because I'm trying to connect those dots between your system and our ability to take on big tech companies to invalidate their terms of service agreements. Does your system help?
Yes, using my system, the odds of you getting remedy go up to 80%. If you stay in their system, it's maybe 1 to 2%. Okay? Because you have equitable rights in the trust law. They have to abide by your equitable rights. They do not have to abide if you're claiming legal rights. Okay?
Hey, I got a question. Now, you mentioned the Patriot Act, which is basically a rape of our sovereign rights. Are you familiar with the Genesis Act that just passed, which does the same thing to our financial right?
Yeah, Dodd-Frank bill of 2008. When you give a bank money, it's no longer yours. They have no right that they have to give it back to you.
Recent act that was just passed through the Senate is called the Genesis Act, the Genius Act, and it talks about the cryptocurrency and stuff like that.
Okay, so
and my other question is, Randy mentioned that we could get your packet for a certain donation. What size donation are we looking at?
I charge $1,500 per student, divided into 3 separate payments based on the work I'm doing. I do not let you write the paperwork. I write it. Okay? For obvious reasons. So there's no mistakes. Okay? But I still give you a lot of stuff to read. We have phone calls, we email, we stay in communication, but it's a stepwise. I break it down into 3 main steps. Okay? Because if I threw everything at you, you'd just be swallowed up with way too much stuff. So I try to do, just like building a house, I try to lay the cement, the framing, the roof, the mechanicals. I do it in a very specific way where one step builds upon the next step. Okay? But let's take a bank account. Okay? Right now, the money in your bank is not protected. But Randy will tell you, one of the first things we do after we open up an account, we send the bank president a letter placing all deposits on a special deposit. What does that mean? That means you're placing it in trust and naming them as the trustee and you're the beneficiary. So now they have a legal obligation to watch your money, put it on a different ledger, and they can't steal it on a bank bail-in. Okay? So you don't understand that if you notice them, okay, just like he was talking about earlier, when we noticed the 6 government offices, that's trust law. You have to notice them that you've put these assets into a trust. It's the only thing they will recognize that can be protected from them at this point. Okay?
Hey, I have a question. You were talking about the fee schedules. You're talking about the police having bonds with $5 million.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know anybody that's been successful in claiming like deprivation of rights from USC, like 241, 242? Do you know anybody that's been successful in?
I've seen successful cases, but we don't go that route. See, now deprivation of rights, color of law, now you're under 18 USC 1942 and 1943. Only U.S. citizens can get those remedies. We go to a court of equity, okay, and then we ask for the $5 million. We don't go into their state and district courts. We go to a different court, in front of a different judge where our constitutional rights are protected. Okay? You can go that route. I'm just telling you it's a harder route. Okay? If you use 18 USC, color of law, deprivation of rights, you are automatically putting yourself under their jurisdiction and their rules, federal rules of civil procedure. Got to have an attorney. All of these issues come into play. All right?
Well, so
Yeah.
First, someone is diligent. How long does it, you would say, go through your process?
How what?
How long would it take to do
Okay.
everything that you're
It
offering?
depends. Most people have a birth certificate, but there's not authenticated. That usually takes 1 to 2 months, maybe even a little longer. That's really the rate limiting step. So if you don't have anything done, it probably takes 4 months. Okay? It could take up to 6. It depends on the government, especially with the State Department authenticating the birth certificates. Then it takes a time to get stuff sent to Iowa, to send to Montana. Then we got to send stuff to the federal government. The trust itself takes 30 days to trust. So there is no one piece of paper. There is no easy way to do it. It's a multitude of things that you got to get done. And it's all about getting evidence to show the government of your proper status so that you can be put in the computer so that you will be treated accordingly. So again, let's take the military occupation. Right now, in the system, you considered a U.S. citizen, which means you're an enemy of the state. Okay? So I'm sure you've all seen videos. Do they treat people when they pull them over? Do they treat them nice? Because they are belligerents under the system. Okay? Again, you're not in the republic, you're in their jurisdiction. Thus, it is assumed in the military, you're belligerent, you're guilty until proven innocent. Shut up and do what I say. They treat you like a child, on and on and on and on. Okay? Wouldn't it be easier if you were in the system on a do not detain list? They pull you over, you give them the driver's license, they go back and scan it. Within 2 minutes, they're back at your car saying, here you go, have a nice day, see you later. Because that's what happens when I get pulled over. So you choose which world, which jurisdiction do you want to live in? Where you're considered a belligerent or a friendly. Because in the military, there's only 3 designations. You're either an enemy, a neutral, or a friendly. Now, an enemy and a neutral are treated the same. The neutrals are treated as if they are enemies. So the only one they treat nicely is the friendlies. The friendlies get a 4 or 5-star passport. The friendlies get a do not detain, do not arrest. But all U.S. citizens are treated as if they are the enemy, which they are because we have a foreign federal government. Okay?
Anybody else got any questions?
Is this trust considered a irrevocable trust or revocable?
Irrevocable, of course, because it's
Okay, just
private.
making sure. And
Yeah.
we would become the grantor as well as the beneficiary.
That is correct. And we appoint the federal government as the trustees, which is the way the Constitution was set up. You have to understand that the Constitution was a trust agreement. It's actually a mortgage. They socialized the debt from the Revolutionary War. Okay? But they hired a company. The federal government is that HOA company that's running things. They run the United States of America. Okay? Many people call them the United States, but it's really a corporation. But that corporation is the manager of the United States of America. The country is still here. The republic is still here. The Article 3 courts are still here. It's just all you're seeing is the military occupation. And that's why you're having such a hard time with everything. That's why they can charge you for just about anything they want, right? They don't have to give you your rights. They don't have to recognize your rights because you're in the wrong jurisdiction. You haven't told them that you're in the other jurisdiction. Okay, you haven't told them your property, your rights. That one guy was talking about property rights. You haven't notified them that your property rights are in a private jurisdiction where they can't have them. Okay, they're making assumptions and presumptions based on their authority of law, right? Their color of law. Would that make sense?
I've got the mic back now. Yeah, 2 points in support of that. When I signed up in the military, I remember seeing the words that you are property of the federal government.
That's
When
correct.
you sign on that dotted line, you are their property. They can do whatever they want to with you. Your life is theirs to expend it if they want.
Because you contracted into a different jurisdiction. That was the problem. But when you get out of the service, you fill out paperwork to undo that contract. You release yourself of the obligation. And that's our exhibit 2, is you have to release yourself of the obligation that you've been acting as the surety trustee for your straw man. So you have to undo the crap that you unwittingly put yourself into.
I've got a follow-up question on that. So once you've gotten out of the system, as I have through your program, being a constitutionalist, I've always said that it is my duty to hold the government accountable for their wrongful acts. And I filed a $40 million claim against some public servants for that. There's going to be some more in the future. But since we're out of the system, how does that affect because in my point of view, when I signed on the dotted line and swore, and I have the documents to my swearing in, I swore to protect and defend the Constitution. In my mind, I always thought that was the organic de jure Constitution. I never knew at that time about the de facto Constitution. So in my mind, that's the oath that I took, and that's lifelong. So that's outside of their jurisdiction. What would you say on that?
Okay, for starters, there's 2 different constitutions, one in 1789 and the other one in 1871. One's private, one's public. One's in the republic, one's in the now in the military jurisdiction or statutory jurisdiction. So you got to know which constitution you're talking about. It means whether you're the trustee or the beneficiary of which of those trusts. Now, for private citizens, you cannot get remedy in their state district courts. You have to go in front of a chancery court or an Article 3 judge. That's where your constitutional rights, property rights, are enforceable. You can do it through the system on their system, but only as a U.S. citizen, okay, which has very limited privileges and benefits. Do not have the constitutionally secured rights if you're coming in under lawsuit under 18 U.S.C. But if you file the suit in either circuit court or federal district court and through an equity court, then you can get your remedy as of your constitutionally secured rights. Okay, so what they did is in 1938, they merged common law, admiralty, maritime, everything into one, and then on the other hand, they kept the equity court. So there's 2 different law forms, or 2 different jurisdictions again. What you're seeing is the state district courts on the statutory jurisdiction. You don't understand that there's the courts of equity, but those are only accessible for private citizens. And you got to bring proof you're a private citizen. Okay? So we bring our paperwork. Okay? Now, when you're in equity, the case will be sealed. The public cannot know about it because they cannot know that people actually have constitutionally secured rights. So your case will be heard in like a room that's secret. Okay? This is just what the rules are. I don't make them up. I'm just telling you what the rules of the game are. So you can get a judgment against them. It won't be public record that you beat them. Okay? But if you get awarded a monetary, you'll have to sign an NDA. Because they can't have the public finding out that you actually can go to this other courtroom and get your rights remedied. Okay?
2 questions. The first is, if in our current status, prior to your program becoming private, etc., if constitutional rights have in fact been violated, is it possible through this equity court to cure for the damages in a retroactive manner, or are you of the view that unless and until one becomes private, you're pretty much up to free?
You can go back in time. That's called nunc pro tunc ab initio. Go back to the very beginning when this started. Now, let's say you even had a conviction 10 years ago. You can go into a court of equity and bring that conviction into that court and get it voided. So you can go back in time. Equity, see again, equity is Bible. It's natural law. It wants to do the right thing. Okay? It doesn't care what the law says. You know, if you steal in a loaf of bread, you get your hand cut off. It is not, that's strict common law, statutory law kind of stuff, whether you broke the statute or not. Equity wants to take the big picture into account, wants to take the details of the case. Okay, the famous case in the Bible is the lady that was convicted of adultery, and she, you know, the punishment was that she was to be stoned to death, right? Because that was the law, that was the common law. So Jesus comes along and says, you know, he who casts, who hasn't sinned, cast the first stone. So he's like, hey, wait a second here. Who hasn't sinned, right? And maybe she suffered enough with the public humiliation, whatever. That's equity, okay? Equity is more powerful than the common or statutory law. It's God's law. He may be, you know, again, if you're speeding, taking your child because he's bleeding to the hospital, but a cop pulls you over and gives you a ticket, okay, in their statute and code, you broke the statute, you're guilty. But in equity, they're going to say, no, come on, let's have some common sense here. We didn't harm anybody, okay? He was doing the right thing, thus it won't, you know, we're not going to find him guilty. That's the difference between open eyes equity and over here where the lady justice has her eyes closed, she can't see what's going on. Okay? It's the substance of the law versus the form of the law. Okay? It isn't concerned with what the law states. It's really what was the intent of the law, what really happened in this case. We can take these things into consideration. You know, the best example I can give you is Judge Judy. If you've ever seen that show on TV, that's a form of equity law where she does not allow lawyers into her courtroom. That's the other thing about the court of equity. You go in against the person who is the defendant. No lawyers are allowed to speak in an equity court, okay? Which is just the way Judge Judy does it. You have to testify. The defendant has to be there to say their story. Now, if you don't testify as a defendant, you know, there's no pleading the fifth. That can be held against you, okay? So an equity judge gets to see the big picture, and he wants it out of your mouth. You don't get to have a lawyer to represent what they say. You have to say it, okay? First-hand perfected knowledge has to come out of your mouth. Equity acts in personam, which means in person. So again, there's different court rules for the courts of equity versus the statutory courts. But yes, you can go back, you can undo, you can void judgments for. Okay. So it's up to you. It's up to you. What jurisdiction do you want to live in? What jurisdiction do you want to go to court in? You have the choice. God gave you free will.
Thank you. Are you familiar with some of the current lines of thinking that have to do with unlimited funds available by virtue of the minor estate, that when you claim your minor estate? Would you comment about that, please?
That is correct. I won't say it's unlimited, but it's, if you Google, write this down, Google Walter Burien, B-U-R-I-E-N. Years ago, he is a forensic accountant. He went around to every county in every state and did an accounting, and he said that the United States of America is making $100 trillion a year to the plus. Okay, and with these bonds that are in your name, I'm guessing by the looks of your age, you probably have somewhere in the neighborhood figure of at least $100 million to the credit in your Cesta K account. So take that times 330 million people. Are we really in debt or not? Or is there plenty of credit to go around?
Nelson's asking how you access the credit. I kind of touch on that a little bit. He's told me before that you can do it, and people have done it, supposedly, but when you do, you figure out the system, then they make you sign an NDA. And if you tell anybody about it, then you're toast.
The money's taken away. On average, 2 people a year get access to those funds. Okay, and when I mean access is mean they don't get a check. They get either an unlimited credit card or they get a trustee assigned to them. So if you send them bills, they will be paid for you. There's your unlimited credit. But if you tell anybody how you did it, that you did it, it will be taken away from you. And I've seen one person where they took it away from and he never got it back. And that's probably 4 years ago. Okay. So yeah, it can be done.
Back that equity. We're getting to remedy. Is that going through the federal claims building, which those courts are tied to Marietta?
Say it again.
Is getting remedy or equity or any justice against the judges and attorneys, is that going through the federal claims building, which my understanding is tied to the court system of the Mariana outlying.
Yes, you have to go to the federal courthouse to get equity. Now, true equity. Can you get, there's actually three kinds of equity, basically two. One is exclusive, that's your constitutionally secured rights. They will allow in their court system what they call concurrent equity, which means it's a mix of exclusive equity and statutory, Roman civil law kind of mixed together. Now, if you ever look stuff up like, I'll give you an example, writs of mandamus, injunctions, bankruptcy, those are all equitable remedies. So they will see equity. You can come in and claim your equitable rights for certain things in their system. But if you want all your equitable rights, you got to go to federal district court. It's got to be in front of an Article 3 judge. He's the only one allowed to grant you those rights, okay, or to see them. He's trained an Article 3, Article 1 judge can only see statutory laws and statutes. But an Article 3 judge, they have to go to a school in Reno, and they get trained for a year, and that they can see both sides of the law, okay? So I will tell you that like a murder trial, that has to be seen by an Article 3 judge because he needs to see the specifics of the case, okay? So there are certain things that Article 3 guys see automatically. They see the higher stuff, and they have the ability to see things in equity or what I will call statutory law, military law, but he makes that decision based on the pleadings of the parties, okay? So on your paperwork, when you file, it has to say that you're requesting, if you're the plaintiff, you got to request the equity jurisdiction, original. We call it exclusive equity or original, Article 3, Section 2, Clause 1. That's what you want. You want your equitable remedy. But if you don't put that on there, if you make a claim like everybody else does and like every lawyer does, you get the default jurisdiction, which is called general jurisdiction, okay, which is your statutory Roman law. Okay? So again, it's unbelievable. They'll give you your remedy, but you got to have the knowledge to know how to do it. You got to know that there's a choice. There's an option, like the option of requesting special deposit. If you don't request special deposit with a bank, you get general deposit. Well, that general deposit means they can take your money anytime they want. But they didn't tell you that you could want special deposit, did they? See, that's only for people that know what they're doing. It's only for private citizens. Okay? So all of this is about, I'm telling you the remedies are there, but you got to understand the concept of why and how you can do this. Okay?
What, if any, benefit is there to having the MCO for your automobile? Will it allow you to unregister or give you full ownership right? MCO.
I personally don't think there's an advantage. I personally would rather have everything in my trust in the public. That way I'm not liable. I personally wouldn't do it. Again, this is why it's individual. I can't tell you not to do it. If that's what you want to do, you can go for it. But like with everything else, then there's your consequences to what that involves. I tend to want to play in their game, their sandbox, not be liable for anything, get the benefits of everything. That way I'm not harmed in any way. Unless I harm them, I'm really not harmed at all. Okay? So, again, I don't want to dissuade you. I just don't recommend it. I know there's so many people out there that say you got to do it, you should do it. I'm one of the few, if any, the only one that says I don't think that's a good idea. Let them have it. Okay? Oh, do you really want the liability if you fall asleep at the wheel and kill somebody? Do you want the liability or do you want the state? It's the state's car. Okay, I come from Illinois where the mandate to have cars registered or insured really came from there. So many years ago, it might be 20, but when you got to be old like me to know that when you were first got your license, you didn't have to have insurance. There was no state law that you did. Well, there was two cases in Illinois where Mexican nationals were behind the wheel, got drunk, killed, a couple family members in these cars. Okay. So some really smart attorneys, you know what they did? They didn't sue the Mexican national who had no money. They sued the state of Illinois because it was their car. And guess what? The state of Illinois had to pay. Okay. So after the second case, that's when the Illinois said, oh, we're not doing that again. We're going to now mandate everybody has to carry insurance first. Okay. But your backup is if your liability insurance is exceeded, it's really the state who is liable for what happens to the vehicle. You see what I mean? I don't want to be. Now, even if I was, would our trust still carry it? Yes. What would happen is if a judgment came against me for $1 million, if I accidentally killed somebody when I fell asleep at the wheel, I would have them send the bill to the Secretary of the Treasury, who is my trustee, and let them pay the bill. Because again, we were talking that in that account there's $100 million, so she can write the check and settle the account, no problem. But it doesn't. I don't have to, because again, it's in trust. I'm not the liable party. The trust is, and the trustees of that trust are the Secretary of the Treasury and the President of the United States. So again, in their jurisdiction, I really don't want to be the liable guy. So that's why I keep everything in trust. Okay, let's take a weapon. Again, let's say I had a gun and somebody stole it out of my garage, but then they later killed somebody, and that family now wants to sue the owner of the gun to try to say you were negligent in letting him steal it or whatever, right? They would come after you. But if you come in now and show them a deed of acceptance and conveyance that actually the gun belongs to the private trust, and if you're going to make a claim, you're going to have to make it against the federal government. You see? So I don't want to be the loyal title holder to the gun. I want to put it in trust. Do you see what I mean? Otherwise, I'm liable in case something happens.
Well, this is Ken. I'm being drugged through a kangaroo court.
Yeah.
Is there a way that I could move it to a court event?
That broke up so much I couldn't understand one word.
And he was asking if you could, he said he is being drugged through a kangaroo court and asked if there's a way to remove
Yes.
it to the equity court. And yes, if you've gone through his program, then that's what you do. You have declared that only you can be taken into a equity court. And all you got to do is then prove it.
Okay,
you got it in the wrong court.
Well,
They don't expand.
if it is in the wrong court, you can file a warrant for jurisdiction. Okay, a warrant for jurisdiction is asking of the superior court, like the circuit court, to allow the rules of equity to be brought down into your case if it's going on. So there is a way. Or you take a new case and go up there. Either way. Okay.
Anybody else got any questions? There's someone else who got a question, but one of the questions while I'm handing the mic to her is somebody's asking if you got a website.
No, I do not. Because I stay out of the public. Now, I gotta be honest, I'm getting so damn busy that yes, I'm looking into forming one with my son-in-law, because he's more of a computer guy. I'm not. But right now, no, I don't, and I have not. I just have a lot of files. I have people read to try to learn this stuff, a lot of articles, that kind of stuff. So if you want to talk to a student or be referenced to anybody that I've ever worked with, no problem. But no, I do not have any kind of website, because this is really, if Randy would tell you, Randy, how many times do we talk and you call? This is a person to person thing. Okay. Would you be able to get everything you need off of the website? I don't think so. I think it helps you when we have our talks together. So I try
having
to.
a one-on-one interaction with KL is so much more informative, because you like we're doing now, we bounce off of each other, and just like with my wife, we're learning, and her brother, we're learning by talking to each other about it, and then we're comparing notes and experiencing it together. Same thing with KL. When you're talking to him, in person, it's a conversation, and you're absorbing it easier rather than being something you've got to interpret from text. It's, all of you probably do texting. I don't, but interpretation gets all screwed up. Sometimes you think somebody said something derogatory or defamatory towards you, and they didn't mean that at all. So, in having the one-on-one conversations with him, it's all that's eliminated. Just like us talking here face to face. But I'll also add that KL started a new thing too on Thursday nights, once a month. For those who have gotten into his program, you can sign up for his chat on Thursday nights, and that's also very informative. And then if you're in the program, you're getting all the information, and you got other people just like here asking questions, through the Zoom call, whatever. And so you learn a lot from that, and we really look forward to those chats. He does his little content pitch. I don't want to call it a pitch, but addresses what he's going to address for that event, and then he opens it up for questions. And just here, we have this conversation about answering questions.
I want to be available to answer questions, because people have questions, just like now. If I'm not available, it's not as effective in my personal experience. That's all. I feel more like a coach, that it's better to interact on a personal level, so the understanding gets much clearer, and I try to do everything I can to be available to all of my students, and that's what's gotten me so busy. Is the numbers are getting higher and higher. Just on that group call, there's over 150 people usually on that, just listening. So I try to do the best I can, but I'm one guy. If we go to a website, it might reduce that kind of a thing. I want to try to make it where either I've done videos, I'll put those on there, but always leave open the ability for you to contact me. And so if you really want to talk, I'm available to talk. Is that Quana in the red? Your wife there, Randy? Oh, I just don't see her. Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
I just wanted to say hi, because she's kind of just started. Yeah, but see, I remember her. I can remember her name.
This one?
I can usually remember the name to everybody.
Oh, that's a camera. Yeah. I didn't know what that was. Okay. There you go. Here.
All right. How you doing?
Blue.
Yep.
This is the first time you've seen me on camera too, isn't it?
Yes, it is. Your hair's longer than I expected, but it's good. Looks good.
Yeah, I need a haircut. But I'll be surfing again pretty soon, so kind of fits in the curve. And FYI, while you were on vacation, having a good time last week, I had diverticulitis. So you were having a much better time than I was.
Yeah, I know that's what that's like, because I am a medical doctor. Yep. I have delivered over 100 babies easy back in my residency days. But this stuff keeps me busy 12 to 15 hours a day, every day of the week. So a lot of people want to learn this. A lot of people have issues either with the IRS or other things that they're trying to work their way through. And the whole thing is that got me is, in case you don't know, I did sue the federal government twice. I beat them twice. So I know what it takes to beat those guys. And again, it was a learning experience. It was a learning experience when I was on active duty twice of being in a different jurisdiction. All of that helped me learn what I needed to learn to help people today. So I've been there. I know what it's like, especially to be hassled by the federal government.
I have a question.
Yeah.
I've been putting on backmark checks or depositing them. Demand for lawful money per 12 USC 411 if I'm cashing. If I'm depositing, I also add special deposit of face value. Would they put
Okay.
our checks into a different category?
Yes, they put it on a different ledger.
Ledger. All
Now
right.
I don't use the U.S. code. I just say on special deposit means that for private credit means the same thing. But when you start quoting code, you're saying you're under the C jurisdiction. You're under their jurisdiction. You don't want to be under their jurisdiction. You want to be under the equity jurisdiction. Now, how do I know they do that? The first time I ever did this was in Illinois. I was in a small town and it had a credit union. And we would always get the bank statements from the local credit union address, right? Well, as soon as I started doing the special deposit, all of a sudden I was getting my statements from Missouri. I was getting from an accounting firm out of Missouri. So then I went in and talked to the bank manager. He said, "Oh yeah, that when we do this special deposit, it's just put on a different ledger, and so a different accounting firm handles those kind of deposits versus the regular bank deposits. Because you got to understand, those regular bank deposits, they go take that money and put it on Wall Street, or they buy a commercial building in town. They're investing your money so they can make money. Okay, and if their loans go bad, or the economy goes bad, or the stock market goes bad, they can become insolvent. Okay, which means they have to close their door. Not that they've lost all their money, but they have to be zeroed out on the gap accounting, the T ledger, credit debit side. They have to go to zero every day by the end of the day. Now, if they can't be at zero, they have to borrow money from the Fed window. Okay. Now they usually only borrow it for a day, but the point is if you can't be at zero, the ledgers come out to zero. At the end of the day, you're insolvent and you have to close your door. Okay. In bad loans, depressions, recessions, that makes banks go under. That's how it happens. It's the accounting. Okay. So do you want your money protected by a trust or not, where it's susceptible to seizure? Because right now, under the Dodd-Frank bill, the bank can seize your money, or the government can come in and seize your money anytime without your permission. Okay? So it's up to you. I can't. Huh?
That would also include IRS seizures, right?
That's right. That's correct.
Okay, we got one more question, and then we're going to let you go, Kale.
I just wanted to thank you for greeting and meeting this group today. I've been a member of. I happen to be here today. I'm not here every day, or every day. I thank Darren and everybody who was responsible for getting you to come and speak to us. I'm very interested. I will be reaching out. My question is kind of two-part. I heard you mention about passports.
Yes.
And different passports. I think we've all here heard that there's different passports with all these stars. So that's one question about passport. The other is, I heard you mention about getting flagged in the good way. I have had experience in these corrupt civil courts and criminal courts, unfortunately, to my detriment. And I am very interested in moving forward and trying to get this resolved, because I was railroaded, as you all know. So I want to get on the good list, because I believe that my name is flagged, because I have tried a lot of this stuff, but in varying ways, not having all of the answers or all of the information. And it's hurt, I believe.
but I'm still standing and I'm still fighting. But,
Right. But you
we're
said
sitting
the
on the
magic
good list.
words. You said the magic words. You're flagged. It's your name that is flagged. You have to get control of the name and put it in the right jurisdiction. Okay? Passports. This is actually pretty easy because I was in the military. I know what a passport is. Passport is a military security clearance. Okay? Because we're under a military occupation. You won't see the difference in a passport book. Now, again, years ago, 10 years ago, people like us would get a red colored passport. And then there was the blue colored passport for US citizen. And then when a lot of this, patriot stuff, whatever came about, everybody wanted the red passport because they knew there was a difference. Well, the government came along and said, no, we can't have that. We can't let them know. So we're going to make all of them blue. So for the last 10 years, all the passports have been blue and you can't tell the difference. It's on a computer level. Now, when you get a passport card, that's where you can see the difference of your military security clearance. All right. On a passport card, if you had one, you look in the upper left-hand corner above your surname, there will be black stars. There will be 3, 4, or 5. Now, a 3-star passport card means you're seen as a U.S. citizen, you're an enemy of the state. That you can be picked up tomorrow, put in a van, and taken to Guantanamo, whether you like it or not. Okay? A 4 or a 5-star, black stars above the surname, upper left-hand corner, means they don't have the authority to do that, that you're not a U.S. citizen, thus you are a friendly. So again, I get back into it's a military security clearance. Okay? Just as if you were to drive your car onto a military base, they stop you at the gate. You got to give them your driver's license so they can put it in the computer, right? They're going to do a quick check on you. Are you a threat to them or not? Okay, so you got to have it in the computer that you're a friendly versus you're treated as if you're an enemy. Does that sound better?
Yeah, he's not a yes. Okay, so here's my card, passport card, and it has 3 stars. I'm still an enemy of the state. But the other thing is that KL has told me that just wait till yours expires and then get a new one. Or you could do a name change, where you're going to change your name from your all caps name to the upper lowercase property. And then you can get a passport card with the 4 or 5 stars. You want to expand on that, Tim?
A passport agency will only allow you to redo a DS-11, which means a brand new one, with a judge's order. Okay, period. That's their rules. You got to play by their rules. You got to get that order if you want it done today versus just waiting for it to expire. We can get it changed in the system, but most people don't know how to fill it out properly, and thus, again, you do a few mistakes, even one mistake on a passport application, and they will label you as a U.S. citizen. Okay?
We got one more question, and then we're going to let you sit down.
Trying to wrap my brain around this enemy of the state being a U.S. citizen when their own law says that America, specifically, Americans are the enemy of the United States.
Well, what's the definition of American? Whoever said that? Okay. Some people consider American citizens the private citizens. If you're claiming you're a U.S. citizen, you will be treated as if you are an enemy of the state. Period. That's what happens when you get pulled over by the police. They're going to treat you as if you're a U.S. citizen until proven otherwise.
One more. There's Nelson.
Excellent information. If one possessed a 4 or 5 star and one was dragged into a military courtroom with the gold brand flag in a municipal, county, state jurisdiction, would that be all that would be sufficient to have them stand down?
No, it wouldn't be all, but it's definitely a start. put in a copy of that as evidence that they don't have jurisdiction over you. So the first thing you have to learn as a private citizen, that you don't go in there and argue the case. You're not there to argue whether you were speeding or not. You're there to argue, do they have in-person jurisdiction over you, the man? Okay, because if they can't, the moving party has to prove it according to the United States Supreme Court. And if they can't prove it, the case cannot proceed. So you're trying to tell the court that, hey, we can't even start this thing until the moving party first proves he has jurisdiction over me. I've provided evidence, and I'll put in an affidavit that I'm challenging in personam jurisdiction. And until that can be proven, we can't do anything here. That's how you fight in their court system as a private citizen. You do not argue the case specifics. You argue jurisdiction. And I won't say argue, you challenge it. You, by their rules, they have to prove it, that they have jurisdiction over you.
And on
You
that
see what I mean?
subject, Glenn is sitting right here. This is Glenn Fern, and he helped me create my challenge of jurisdiction for a case that is still kind of in limbo. But basically, after I filed that, nothing has happened from the other side. They haven't appeared. There's something that they did appear because the court ordered a order to show cause. I don't know the results of that because I didn't need to. I had no liability or responsibility to appear. I am anxious to get back down to South Texas because they're not posting this stuff on the website anymore. But I am interested in seeing what they did, what the judge did. But at this point, I really don't care what he did because he had no jurisdiction because they never proved it. So that kind of goes to what Dale's talking about, and I'm going to use that, in another way later. But anyway, we need to let you go, KL. Thank you so much.
All
right. Okay.
Hey, Kale, this is Jason. Just went through the passport process, and I just did it like I was applying for a new passport, right? And answered all the questions correctly and all that stuff. And I got identified myself with some court documents. I didn't use my driver's license. I gave them a rural free delivery route, and I have a passport now that has a totally different number than my previous passport.
Did you get a passport card?
You say it does have 3 stars.
Okay, so you're still treated as if you're a U.S. citizen. It sounds like you used the copper moonshine stills way to fill it out, which I do, but I put in an explanatory statement. I put in a couple more exhibits. I put in a double authenticated certificate of live birth that puts the birth certificate onto the Republic jurisdiction. So there's a few more things that I do than the copper moonshine people. And if you did it, did you have a current passport when you did that? So you were redoing one, or you didn't? Was that a new one?
He updated it, right, Jason?
Well, okay. So if you,
I did just a new application for one.
Okay, so that means they just gave you the same one you had before. Yes, a new one in terms of the number, but your status didn't change because you can't do a new one. Did you? I'm sure you did a DS11 with it, but it doesn't matter. They'll take your money, but they're not going to give you update your status until you have a name change order or you let it expire. I'm just going by their rules. Because there's thousands and thousands.
Al, we appreciate you taking all this time to discuss it with us, and we hope you can attend again with us and have some more time. Thank you.
All right, just trying to help. Thanks.
Okay, I was ready again. I wanted to thank you for coming here again. Really appreciate it. Appreciate everything
Right,
you do.
you're welcome.
All right, take care.
Right,
Okay, later.
We're going to take a little break. Wow. Get the trial here for you. Here, for the record.
Right. Actually, it's 5 years. So basically, for the jobs, with the, with, there you So what do you think? Just put up there. You got it. You got both. You're right on this part. First, it translated to the I'm trying to be, I don't, I'm cutting off being, my finger face. Happy for, that would make you different. People on here. And I think odd, dude. Everybody, you know, we're actually, I think that's like, everybody be great. Well, we're all like down. And they, well, you pay that kind of thing.
Right here. Back in this chair. Yeah. All right. Are you feeling okay, Carrie? Feeling okay? Okay. Good. I didn't know if you had to think. Oh, I might. It's president. Okay. Right. Now they get you on the hero. You don't have a global I should on right back. That's it. If you're naked. Great. You're definitely okay. No, I didn't believe you're okay. Good. Thanks. Right. Okay. I had it. Well, if you want to get that. Oh, they're active. Really? I'm very gonna say. This is over there. Like your black one, bring your black foot and that Jerry. I think so. Thank you. Yeah. Yeah. Great. All right. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Morgan. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. Thank you, I just rose the dead. You dumb people, persons, all right? Thank you for standing up because I summoned you here, all right, which is witchcraft. I summoned your dead, all caps name here, and y'all showed up. So I'm gonna go ahead and call the docket, and y'all go ahead and sound off to your name in all caps, and we'll proceed as we're supposed to here, okay? I'm under contract to perform, and hopefully there's some of these sovereign citizen people here today that like to test the waters with me, and let's go ahead and get this going today. I'd like to hear this case.
He brought the case.
All right, so the court is now in session for case number JAP 0324 SC 000 227/PH. In Kenneth Wimet and Darren versus Chrysler Capital, the plaintiffs are seeking $19,005 in fake money for damages, loss of transportation, and other, and an order for the return of the vehicle. Oh, I love when they use our terms. We got them trained so well. Yes, vehicle, commercial term. Well, always gets you like that. I like when they use this type of language. Let's begin. Opening statements. Dr. Wimet, you may receive. You may, Dr. Wimet. Mr. By the way, Mr., you're not even a swabby, all right? You're not even on the deck of the ship, all right? So you're Mr. Wimet. You may proceed.
Thank you, Your Honor. My friend Darren and I are here because Chrysler Capital wrongly repossessed my vehicle, which I offered to pay in accordance with UCC. They refused my tender of payment, violating UCC 3-60, which discharged my debt. This repossession breached private agreement I had with Darren. He relied on me for transportation in exchange for his help on my project. 9 months we've been without a vehicle, causing a significant hardship, which calculated $19,000, 500 for damage. And we asked the court to order Chrysler to return my car.
Thank you, Mr. Wimet. Mr. Martinelli, your opening statement. First off, here's a good point. In your paperwork, you should put automobile under household goods and maybe reach out to AI or Derek Gonzalez about how to address your household goods. Okay, so Your Honor, Chrysler Capital acted lawfully in repossessing the vehicle due to non-payment under the terms of the financing agreement. The plaintiff's claims about UCC provisions in a trust are legally irrelevant in the context. There is no evidence of a valid tender of payment, and the private agreement between the plaintiffs does not impose liability on Chrysler. We request dismissal in this case.
Thank you, Mr. Wimet. Can you call your first witness or present your evidence?
I'd like to present our motion for summary judgment. Well, February 20th, 2025 is it's in the court record, but I don't have.
The court has the motion for the summary judgment. Please summarize its relevance.
The motion on page 2 shows that I made valid tender payment to Chrysler's general counsel on 3 occasions. They failed to respond to under UCC 3-502. The failure constitutes dishonor of my office. UCC 3-603 states that if a tender of payment is refused, the debt is discharged to the extent of the tender. Since Chrysler refused my payment, debt was discharged and their repossession was unlocked.
Mr. McCurry, your response to this? One thing I would add. Which phone is that ringing? Bailiff, did you read the thing when we came in here? It says no cell phone. All right, and you're disturbing my court. The next time I hear somebody's cell phone ring, you're gonna go to jail. All right, you hear that, bailiff? Anybody comes here sagging with their pants or their cell phone rings, you take their phone from them. I'll tell you what, we're just going to take your phone from you. Thank you. Thank you, Your Honor. One thing I would address is your slip bag.
is the fact that they never referred to negotiable incidents. So you presumed that they passed them and you would like, maybe, I don't know how you would file a motion for them to audit it or addressing it of not referring to the negotiable list. Okay, so, Your Honor, the UCC provisions cited apply to negotiable instruments, like checks or promissory notes, not auto loan contracts. Mr. Weeman's alleged tender was not in the form of acceptable under the contract, which required payment in U.S. Currency to a specific account. There's no evidence of a valid tender, and the repossession followed standard procedure for after missed payment.
I'll take that into advisement. Do you have the additional evidence?
Yes, Your Honor. Go ahead.
Your Honor, Exhibit 3, Modern Monetary Mechanics from the Federal Reserve Bank, Chicago, supports my position. Page 3 explains that money includes demand deposits and checkable accounts, which are created by banks through lending. My tender was a promise to pay, backed by my credit, which is how money is created in the fractional reserve system. Chrysler's refusal to accept it discharged the debt.
So I'll take that under advisement. Do you have any additional evidence?
Yes, Honor. I'd like to testify about our private agreement and the damages Kenneth and I had agreement where I helped him with his projects and he provided me rides to the Jeep, in the Jeep. When Chrysler repossessed his Jeep October 26, 24, I couldn't get to my job and other circumstances and commitments. I lost $12,000 of wages over the 7 months because I couldn't afford alternative transportation. Kenneth also lost income from projects we couldn't complete, totaling $7,500.
Yes, Your Honor. Put in there. Again, we'll address the chief as any yes, Mr. Darren, was this agreement with Mr. Weeman in writing? And does it mention Chrysler Capital?
It was a verbal agreement, and no, it doesn't mention Chrysler, but their repossession stopped Kenneth from fulfilling our agreement, which hurts both of us.
So Chrysler had no knowledge of or obligation under this private agreement.
It
was mine. Yeah, so they caused the harm by taking the car, knowing Kenneth needed it.
Thank you, Your Honor. I am now against 4 people. Right. Your Karen. Just remove that.
I called Kathy Green, our CPA, as an expert, but
I'm Kathy, a certified public accountant with 30 years experience.
Kathy, can you confirm our damages calculation?
Yes, I reviewed Kenneth and Darren's financial records. Darren lost $12,000 in wages due to a lack of transportation from December 2024 to June 2025, based on his prior earnings of $1,714.29 per month. Kenneth halted his project and paid $7,500 for essential rides during that period. The total is $19,500.
This Kathy, are these losses directly attributable to Chrysler's actions, or could other factors like alternative transportation options have mitigated them? And also, could you also explain a little more detail how it came up to 19,000?
The losses are directly tied to the repossession. Neither Kenneth nor Darren had the means to secure reliable alternative transportation in Hurst, Texas, where public transit is limited. The figures are conservative and based on actual income losses and ride costs.
Is there any other evidence? Thank you, Mr. Kathy. Is there any other evidence?
Yes, Your Honor. I present the expression of the Kenneth Joseph We May Trust, filed May 5th, 2025. Page 2 states that I, as the beneficiary, am then liable for the trust debt, and the trust holds my property, including the vehicle. Like Chrysler's repossession violated my rights as a beneficiary, as the vehicle was trust property, not subject to their claim.
Objection, Your Honor. The trust document is irrelevant. Auto loans are secured by the vehicle itself, not affected by a trust. The contract was with Kenneth Weeman personally, not a trust. Also, I believe in his loan agreement, there was also a part where there was talks about professional rights, which actually he agreed to waiver some of his rights.
I'll ask that.
No, Your Honor, we rest.
Your Honor, Chrysler Capital moves to dismiss the plaintiff's reliance on UCC 3-603 is misplaced, as the auto loan is not a negotiable instrument. The contract required monthly payments, which Mr. Weeman failed to make, justifying repossession under Texas law. The trust document doesn't alter the lender's rights, and the private agreements with Darren is irrelevant to Chrysler's obligations. The damages claimed are speculative and not directly caused by Chrysler.
Noted. Any witnesses?
No, Your Honor. We rely on the contract in Texas repossession law.
Argument. Your Honor, Chrysler's refusal to accept my tender of payment is documented in the motion for summary judgment. Discharge the debt under UCC 3-603. Modern money mechanics shows that my tender was valid in our banking system. The repossession was unlawful from Darren and me and violated my trust protection. We've proven $19,500 in damages and request the return of my car.
Your Honor, Chrysler followed the contract in Texas law. The UCC arguments are inapplicable. The trust doesn't shield the vehicle. The damages are not our responsibility. We ask for dismissal.
I'm gonna make a ruling. All right, I reviewed the evidence, including the motion for judgment, the expression of the Kenneth Joseph We Met Trust, and Exhibit 3. The plaintiffs argue that Chrysler's refusal of Mr. Weeman's tender of payment discharged the debt under UCC 13-603, while the UCC provisions typically Applied to negotiable instruments, the plaintiff's reference to modern money mechanics suggests a broader interpretation of the payment tenders in modern banking. Where credit and deposits function as money. The motion for summary judgment, page 2, establishes that Mr. Ouimet made the 3 attempt to tender payment, which Chrysler's counsel did not respond to. Under UCC 3-502, this could constitute dishonor. And 3-3-603 supports the discharge of this obligation if a valid tender is refused. While the tender's form is disputed, the lack of response from Chrysler shifts burden to them to prove that it was invalid, which they haven't done that convincingly. The expression of the Kenneth Joseph Ouimet Trust, page 2, indicates the vehicle may be trust property, implicating Chrysler's claim to it. Even the trust legal effect is limited. The repossession's impact on the plaintiffs is clear. Ms. Kathy's testimony credibly establishes $19,500 in fake money and damages due to the loss of transportation directly resulting from the repossession. Chrysler's defense relies on contract, but they haven't rebutted the UCC-based discharge argument for the plaintiff's evidence of harm. Texas allows repossession, but doesn't negate UCC protections for tender payment. I find no genuine dispute of material fact. As stated in the motion for summary judgment. Ruling, judgment for the plaintiffs, Kenneth Ouimet and Darren, in the amount of $19,500 damages due to loss of transportation. Additionally, I'll order Chrysler Capital to return the vehicle to Mr. Ouimet, even though they already sold it to some schmo down the line, with their all caps name and collected on it. How many times? Okay. I'll tell you what, I'll make them give you a Jeep of equal value with a nice kicker box in the back and a 2001 flipper. Well, you work for you, Mr. Ouimet. Get a winch, we'll get on it for you. I'll have the dealership do that. Thank you. And additionally, I'll order Chrysler Capital to return the vehicle to Mr. Ouimet. And the debt was discharged under UCC 3-603. More costs are assessed to the defendant. This court is adjourned.
Well, you just described your vehicle, basically. You awarded him. Right, but they didn't record it. Back dollar deal. I don't want to make you put it down for here. Here, we're going to deal with we have to go the next week. We have to get that. No, the whole thing is the truth, whole thing, that's what it's true. That would be it, right? The dictator and liquor. Yeah. What? Did he start to do it for the lack group of well, again, we like it. equipment over with. Does, work at that, yeah. That's what. Okay. I think should be a little bit. Yeah. Should be good. Yeah. I'll go get it. Go ahead and load my car up. You call. We'll just give it. We'll do that. You did real good. Good. Are you gonna go with these two? Jason, Rose, Can I ask her? I. I don't want to get into it. I want to say my thought. I want to get out of my heart. That's a good one. That's a good one. Yes. I didn't know that I could come. Didn't come, but I can find it. Right. And then I get I give it. $1,000
I'll get that thing for you. I want to load it up in the park that when the gym calls, I'll at least have all my stuff in there. And then go get the tea. You know, right. Well, get that for making good. You know, I did. I did, and then there's counter it. They don't have it. Right. I took them back. It goes around their back right there. Right there. And look here. It was true. They got a bread. Bring in for that. Bring down for the dog. Bring dog ranch for it's the one make for bread chair. Or you have to be wooden things. So, fine, or it's fine. What is people using it? Unintended. What is the first thing out? What is that's city to me. It's not a matter. What it is it's working on it now. And I think it's going to be right. Yeah. Is that okay? You take right up. I said $23. You said $23? I have $23. Okay, good. And you got the 20. Last week, you did $20. Have included for the gun huh? You could have $20 for that. But it's not really that. You're going to take it to a picture real quick.
Hey, why? No, I thought it would help. Yeah, but he didn't develop. He's right there. Okay. I know. Good. All it did was the Right. Yeah, yeah. Oh. Yeah. So the purpose that I can read it. They've got to where. Okay, we're on rush report. I know. Like, is that you have to look ever quoted? Not that it's going to be pretty. Okay. And you get paid for next week. Thank you, Bill. Find your quick.